Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. My name is Lucas, and I have Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be taking a look at if the Democrats can get 60 seats in the Senate. I'll make this clear right now. It's possible. It's extremely unlikely. And when I say extremely, I mean it.
It's
Uh,
close to possible.
it is close to impossible, but it is technically possible. We'll take a look at what states they need to flip. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So I don't think a 60 seat would happen, nor do I think a 51 seat will happen. Well, it's possible, but not looking favorable in that direction right now. But I think a quick disclaimer is that when we did if Biden can reach 400, that we think is much more possible than this. Although that was still very unlikely. So this is even more unlikelier than that. Anyways, this is our current prediction. We have already flipped certain states. Alabama, we flipped to red. Colorado, Arizona, Maine, and North Carolina all flipped blue. So what else can the Democrats do? And they need to flip from our current predictions to reach that 60 number. First of all, they're going to have to flip Montana. Montana is not looking great for Steve Daines right now. I'm sorry, Steve Bullock right now. Let's actually take a look at the polling here.
Mm-hmm. In my previous Senate prediction video, which you can check out, I did flip Montana back to the Republicans because the past three polls have been looking towards Daines' direction, as you can see.
Yeah, I agree. Bullock is +2, +4, yeah, but again, Montana is an extremely Republican state. Steve Daines is the popular governor there, extremely popular.
Bullock.
But it's not looking, sorry, Steve Bullock, what am I saying today? But it's not looking like that flip will happen. Out of the other states here that we have filled in red, Montana's probably the likeliest state. It's either Montana being the likeliest one to flip blue or Iowa. Iowa flipping blue is definitely within the realm of possibility now, although we do think it will probably go red at the end of the day. We have Greenfield. In the three most recent polls, Greenfield has been up, which is actually funny because I did a prediction video I believe a month ago, and I had Ernst at I think it was at toss-up, actually. I know I had it at tilt R because the three most recent polls had Ernst up. But we're seeing three new polls showing Greenfield up. So we could be in for a tighter race than we're expecting. Iowa tends to be more conservative, but a flip to blue would be no surprise here. So I'd say Montana flipping and Iowa flipping are extremely possible. What do you think about that, Eric?
Yeah, both of these races are going to be neck and neck in reality, and in order for the Democrats to reach 60 seats, they're going to have to flip these states. Understand that not every state is, running for Senate. They have not every state aligns with each other, which is why some of them are grayed out. So they're really going to need to take every state possible in order to reach over 60.
Right, and these two states are very, very, very possible to flip blue. Now we're going to head into a different realm of possibility, which is the not so much.
Yeah.
Let's start with Kansas. Kansas is probably the third likely one. Although Chris Kobach lost, we are seeing polling between Boyer and Marshall that's a lot closer than we kind of expected. Boyer, Marshall +1, Marshall +2, Marshall +10 here, but this is a pretty high undecided number, so we got to factor that in. But overall, Boyer is not polling badly against Marshall. Yes, she polled.
Especially in a state like Kansas.
Right, and Kansas, again, is not as dark red as some of the other red states, like I was going to say Nebraska, but Nebraska third, or like Wyoming.
Or, yeah, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I guess Oklahoma, too. And yes, she did poll better against Kobach. She was leading against Kobach and Hamilton, too, +2. Right, Kobach was a terrible candidate. It's good for the GOP that he did lose. Not too good for Barbara Boyer. But still, it's actually not as safe as we kind of thought before. So Democrats flip Kansas. They're at 53 seats. Just an FYI in Kansas, they actually do have a retiree, Pat Roberts. He has retired, so that's why this seat might be a little bit more contested than usual. Although the other Pat Roberts election was kind of contested as well. Keep that in mind. Let's head to Georgia now. We will do Georgia regular first. This is between John Ossoff and David Perdue, I believe. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Eric will talk about this one.
Yep. Georgia, we made a video on this regarding how Georgia was swinging more and more to the left, but we always said it's not going to happen in 2020. We'll have to wait a bit longer. But there have been signs. There have been initial beginning signs. Like look at these polls against Ossoff and Perdue, even, and then Ossoff +2. Like as I said in my Senate prediction, is it likely that Ossoff will win? Kind of, but not really. I put Georgia in my last prediction as tilt R. It will probably change for the better for the Republicans. I guess this is just a high point for Ossoff, but he will need this. Once again, Democrats need every state possible because there's not a lot up for grabs. So Georgia will definitely be a pretty unlikely but possible state to win.
Right, and I want to add some more info to that. We say that we always don't solely rely on polling. Let's actually add a little bit non-polling stuff to that. We could see higher African-American turnout in a state like Georgia where there is a pretty high African-American electorate. And also we could see some down ballot voting for both probably Joe Biden and the president. Since it's such a big election this year that a lot of people will turn out in the election, they could potentially just be voting for, I'll vote for Joe Biden, I'll vote for the Democrat and Senate too. So potentially that could be helpful for Ossoff as well. So in this scenario, to try to get a 60, Georgia would also flip. All right. Now, this is when we enter the actual probably not going to happen realm.
99%, maybe 95% chance of not happening because these are pretty states.
So let's start with Alabama. This is Doug Jones' state. Let's give some background here. Doug Jones is a Democratic senator from the state of Alabama. He is a moderate, very moderate. In 2018, he surprisingly won the Senate race. Almost no one expected it. He was against Roy Moore, who is a supposed child molester, or I should say alleged child molester. And there was a bunch of accusations against him. I believe he promoted the birther conspiracy about Obama. I read that happening. And yet, despite Roy Moore being possibly the worst candidate you can put on a ticket in modern history, Jones still only won by 2 points?
Yes, not a big margin.
And that just exemplifies how strongly red Alabama is. And people are so Republican that they would probably just vote for Moore because he was a Republican, and you don't really see people crossing parties that much. So funny thing here, we have Tommy Tuberville, a football coach, versus Doug Jones. Initially, we potentially could have seen Sessions running against Jones, but he lost the primary. Funny thing is, this is Auburn University, and Tuberville's a coach there. Was a coach there. Anyways, polling's not looking good for Jones at all. Tuberville 17, Tuberville 10, Tuberville 8, Tuberville 3. This might be a little bit of an outlier because we do see double digits for Tuberville. Very much not good at all. According to fundraising numbers, Jones is getting a lot of donations, but as we always say, fundraising numbers are not a good indicator of predicting who wins the election. Beto in 2018 raised a lot of money, and he still lost. So what do we think here? Jones winning would be an absolute miracle for the Democrats, and no, it's not going to happen. But in this scenario, out of the other states here, if the Democrats do want 60 seats, they're going to have to flip Alabama. And honestly, if I was on if I was a Democratic strategist, I would not advise going for Alabama because there are other states to go for, and I think you should be focusing more on a majority than a 60 seat. But if 60 is possible, they're going to go for Alabama. Anyways, what else can they do? South Carolina. This is crazy me saying this. This is Jamie Harrison versus
Graham.
Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is pretty well known. Jamie Harrison I think he is more of a moderate. I don't think he's progressive.
No, he is not. And that's actually ideal in a state like South Carolina, where you won't see too many progressives and more moderates in such a state.
Right. South Carolina is an extremely deep red state. They do have a decent African-American electorate. If Jamie Harrison can get those numbers up, that could potentially bode well for him because African-Americans do tend to vote for the Democratic candidate. Polling actually is a bit closer than other states. South Carolina is not as deep red as most states. We have it as likely in the presidential election.
It's actually a lot closer because at one point it did used to be higher single digits, if not at one point double digits. Yep, grand plus 17 from an A+ pollster, but this was in February. Of course, times have changed. But Jamie Harrison is doing very well. He just needs to increase the margins and increase African-American turnout. So.
Gravis is a terrible pollster. I won't trust that. Graham +2, Graham +4, +1. Yeah, it is generally actually kind of competitive. I don't think – we made a video on this. It's probably not going to go blue. But in a 60 case, it would go blue if they were to get 60. And let's discuss Georgia special as well. This is Lori Loeffler's seat right now. She has an insider trading scandal right now, but I do think that Doug Jones will pull off a victory here. For those of you who don't know how Georgia's election works, basically it's a jungle election, so everyone just runs on one ticket, like regardless of party. And then the top two finishers, if the first place person doesn't reach over 50%, the top two people go to a runoff. Otherwise, the number one person in the election becomes the senator. All right, so now let's pay attention to this. This is Warnock versus Loeffler versus Collins versus, there's a long list. But we think that Doug Collins will probably prevail in this election. He's pretty well known. He's a pretty staunch Trump supporter. Although polling does show Loeffler up, which is kind of surprising. But looking at it right now, I don't think they're going to elect Loeffler at all. Warnock has a chance, and again, in a scenario where the Democrats have to get over 60 seats, in that scenario, I think Warnock can probably win. It's really much not possible. Like with Loeffler up 9 and Loeffler up 4 and Collins up 4. A Warnock victory is extremely unlikely, but on the road to 60, it's on the table. All right, 3 more seats and we'll get to 60. What can the Democrats do? Texas. All right, this is funny because we talk about this every episode that Texas probably won't be going red blue this cell.
We have this as likely a Republican. As Lucas has said in many other videos, we don't have a Ted Cruz who is trying so hard and going to
Beto O'Rourke, I think you mean.
Did I say Ted Cruz? Yep, I'm sorry. Yep. And then we don't have a better O'Rourke Democratic candidate here who is going to every county and getting millions of dollars in funds, and for context, he still lost to Ted Cruz. And Texas, this for Senate at least, it's not looking good for a Democrat. And the Hagar candidate is not trying their best. Definitely is not trying as hard as Beto O'Rourke did. So not looking.
But honestly, it's not really possible during this coronavirus pandemic. You can't really go to every county. Right. That's kind of impossible right now. But she's not really not getting as much funding as Beto did. It's not really a high profile race. But in this scenario, I mean, Cornyn's up 10, Cornyn's up 9, Cornyn's up a lot. I mean, I think that if we're talking 60, I think Texas can flip in a road to 60. In this path 60. Again, this is extremely unlikely. So we're just laying out what the possibility is of getting 60, and clearly it's not possible. Let's now head to another one. Let's head to Alaska, actually. Alaska, they would have to flip blue as well.
Al
This,
and Sullivan. I talked about this new poll, as Lucas will show, up by 13. It used to be closer, but it is getting more in favor of Sullivan. Al Gross isn't doing too well here. This is also not likely. A road to 60 isn't likely. A majority is, but the 60 is,
yeah,
very.
right. But just to remind you, the reason why this is a little bit close, 5 points, is because there's a super high undecided number, and by the time the election rolls around, we do believe that those undecided voters will probably float to the Sullivan column because Alaska is an extremely, extremely red state. I don't see Gross. I don't see Gross winning this one, and Gross isn't a Democrat; he's an independent. But it is pretty much expected that he will caucus Democratic if he gets elected to the Senate, which it's not looking likely right now. And let's head to our final one that we think can be flipped. You guys are going to think we're insane. We're going to go with Mitch McConnell's seat in Kentucky. Out of the remaining states, Mitch McConnell's seat's the likeliest one. Mitch McConnell's extremely unlikely. Extremely unpopular.
You
He's the
guys,
second most unpopular senator.
you guys got to understand that there's just a lot of safe Republican states, and in order to get to 60, Kentucky is just the most likely. And look at these polls, though. Not looking too good for a Senate Majority Leader.
That is quite shocking, though, to see that in a B-plus pollster, which is actually a decent rating, McConnell's only up 5. But again, I think that we do have to account for the undecided number. Again, he's the Senate Majority Leader. He's known basically everywhere for people that follow politics. McGrath is a relatively solid candidate. She hasn't held elected office before. She did run for a House seat. I think it was against Andy Barr in 2018. She lost that seat, but actually came kind of close. So that's how she is kind of well known. But I will say, had Booker won, this seat would look a lot more favorable for McConnell because he is a very progressive candidate. McGrath, on the other hand, is more of a moderate. I think she did say she would work with Trump. So she is kind of moderate. In that sense, she is a little bit more electable than Booker. She's up against McConnell, though. So very much not likely. But in a 60-seat scenario, Kentucky would go. So this is the path for a 60-seat majority in the Senate. Quite frankly, yep.
Yep, not too likely.
Yeah, it's really not likely. But quite frankly, even with a 60-seat majority, that's not accounting for like the extremely moderate members of the Senate, like Joe Manchin or Angus King. So, that's why we are saying that it is important that the Democrats take more than just 50 majority. So, 51 would be a lot better because you got to account for the Joe Manchin vote. Who, if you don't know, Joe Manchin is compared to the other Democrats, he's pretty conservative. He's from West Virginia, so it's a deep red state. He wants to get reelected. And he wants to represent his people. But essentially the point is Democrats do need to have kind of an over 50 majority if they do want a quote-unquote majority of votes. 60 is simply unrealistic. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. So that's our video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.